Hi, what's up guys, TSJAwesome 628 here, back again with another F1 2020 My Team career, this time for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the season finale. And there will be obviously more seasons when we try and win the championship, but I'm not sure how long they'll be out in, depends when I can get them up. I've got other series to work on as well, but we just sorted out our activity timeline there. But again, we've had a failure on our developments. So we're just going to purchase that again because it should still be able to come for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix just in time. And here it is on the 24th. So we do have that with our final upgrade of the season, and hopefully next season we'll be ready to challenge for the title. Obviously that has already been won by Bottas this season in Mercedes, who pretty much dominated it. We've probably had the second most victories out of any driver, maybe third, I'm not sure how many Hamilton has had. Anyway, into qualifying, and Carlos Sainz is immediately out of the session. Just like in Brazil, I don't know what's going on, but I just decided that someone was going to be out, and well, we're going to start our lap now, aiming for a decent result. Obviously in our current qualifying form, we were third in Brazil. We put it in pole in the previous two races. Before that, we set a decent first sector, make a slight mistake in the final sector, which, if this was the real life Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, would have been deleted our lap with their more strict track limits, but we do go fastest for now and end up the session in P3 behind both Hamilton and Verstappen. So, decent job just to get through. Other than Sainz, it was the two Williams, two Alfa Romeos and Magnussen that knocked out, so Grosjean just made it through. Obviously last race for a couple of drivers, including Raikkonen, because they're retiring at the end of this race, end of the season. And Jack Aitken is probably not going to stay with us next season. Don't know if he'll get a drive though. That's obviously not what I want, so put in the comments which drivers you want me to sign. I'm leaning towards either Ricciardo, Perez or Bottas as my three main ones, so down in the comments I'd like to see which of those drivers you prefer me to sign. Onto our lap in Q2 then. Not the greatest first corner, and slightly scruffy first sector, but we head into the final sector, again running wide at that second to final corner, and putting it momentarily P1, with Hamilton qualifying for on the medium tyres at first, but he then had to abandon that and go on the soft, so only Bottas made it through on the medium tyres, and we only just made it through in P10. Jack Aitken made it through in P6, but we did have a very scruffy lap, and I know I can improve by at least 2 tenths. If we improve by 2 tenths, we're third on the grid. I think we can improve by more, but that's just the example that if we improve by that in Q3, we'll gain 7 positions, so it does seem very close here. Except for maybe Hamilton, who has topped both sessions so far and looks to be quite strong. Anyway, Ocon, Stroll, Norris, Kvyat, Gasly and Grosjean got knocked out. Obviously, the only two battles left in the championship are Racing Point v McLaren and AlphaTauri v Alfa Romeo. A bit like in the real life Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, McLaren are looking to overtake Racing Point, but it isn't for third in the constructors, it's for slightly lower down. Anyway, in our first lap in Q3, we go quite a bit faster than we did before. But Hamilton is currently top, so in this second lap we do need to improve. Run very wide at turn 1, and as we head through the S section we're gaining time, we're about a tenth up. And as we come towards the end of that we set a purple middle sector and we're about 5/10ths up, and that should be enough for us to claim pole position at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So we've put it where we want it on the final race of the season.
Qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves of our top 3, Thomas, Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
So we take pole, and then Hamilton is on the front row alongside us, just ahead of Bottas, who's third. Perez is in P4 and Ricciardo in P5. Verstappen just beats our teammate Jack Aitken to P6, who just picked Charles Leclerc to P7. And Albon lines us up in P9, and Sebastian Vettel is in P10 on the grid. So, unless there are any penalties, it's probably going to be us v the 2 Mercedes, looking at pace-wise, because I don't think we're going to continue that 4/10 advantage into the race. Maybe we will, but anyway, let's get on to the race.
The driver grid order for today's exciting race. Thomas lines up on pole position and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid we have Ricciardo, Albon, Sebastian Vettel and Hamilton. They've taken a grid penalty. Aitken, Leclerc, Kvyat and Sergio Perez. Grosjean, Magnussen, Esteban Ocon and Giovinazzi. Raikkonen, Russell, Nicholas Latifi and Max Verstappen. Norris, Stroll, Gasly and Carlos Sainz will start from the back of the grid.
So a lot of penalties before the start of this race, including our teammate Hamilton, Verstappen and Perez, but more importantly both McLaren drivers also have penalties, and they obviously need to outscore Racing Point by a certain number of points, I can't remember. And if they're both starting last, it's unlikely they're going to be able to do that. Anyway, on the long side we have the fresher tyres than Bottas, so hopefully we're going to get a good start and keep it into turn 1, which is exactly what we are going to do. Bottas is obviously on the medium tyres, and Albon has overtaken Ricciardo for P3, with Vettel just behind in P5. And as we head on through the hairpin here, we're just trying to keep our gap, but Bottas is already close to us. We haven't managed to extend the gap very easily. We're going to need to look to do that in the early parts of this race, because he will have fresher tyres towards the end of the race when he goes on to the soft compound eventually. It is just a 2-stop, so I expect us to go medium and he'll go medium soft, and he'll have fresh tyres right at the end of the race. But we'll also look to pull away from Albon, Ricciardo and Vettel behind, so it's just a two-way fight, and the lowest position we could possibly get is P2, hopefully. So at the end of lap 1 we've managed to get the gap to about a second to Bottas, and we do set the fastest lap, but obviously if we're leading at the end of lap 1 you're going to set the fastest lap. And at the end of lap 2 the gap is over a second to Bottas, and we set another fastest lap. And at the end of lap 3 we got the gap to 1.5 seconds, so another good increase, setting a third fastest lap in a row. On lap 4 we're setting 2 reds though, and we're not probably going to set a fastest lap, as we look decently comfortable for now, but it is just about trying to pull the gap from Bottas, and hopefully he won't be able to gain that time back when he's got the soft tyres on. There's obviously Albon and Ricciardo in P3 and P4 who are battling. They've pulled away from what was Sebastian Vettel, but has now been overtaken by our teammate Jack Aitken. So it'll be good if our teammate can get another decent result, and we are boxing at the end of lap 7 to go on to the medium tyres, and hopefully that will give us an advantage for the rest of this race, as we will be trying to undercut Valtteri Bottas and hopefully gain even more time on him for now. And a 2.9 second stop isn't the best, but we are gonna come out just behind Romain Grosjean here, who we can see is just there, and we head through their section and up towards the chicane, followed by the hairpin, and we are much quicker than Grosjean. We're going to go deep into the hairpin so we can switch back and get a much better exit on the throttle earlier, and it's going to be an easy overtake for us on Romain Grosjean in the much inferior Haas car, and that allows us just to push our way through. We do get a slightly poor exit though, but we should have enough to stay ahead of Romain and look to Magnussen, Ocon ahead. Which is exactly what we do. We're just going to push through. We've already gained about an extra 1.6 seconds on Magnussen as we head through the final corner, sort of pushing him through it, and at the end of lap 8, start of lap 9, we're going to go around the outside into turn 1, pinch into the apex, and that will be P4 for us, just behind the people that started on mediums of Ocon and Bottas, with Kvyat, who started on softs in between them. But at the end of lap 9, Kvyat comes into the pits, so all we have to do is overtake Ocon and we're back to P2. But Bottas has pitted, so that was slightly earlier than I was expecting on lap 9, which it was slightly weird, and now we got a great opportunity just to retake the lead of this Grand Prix, our net position as we overtake Esteban Ocon into the chicane. He does try and send it down the inside, but we close that off pretty forcefully, and we're going to keep the position as we wish to do for the rest of this race. Later down in the grids we have Ricciardo and Albon who are still fighting. Ricciardo has managed to jump Alex, but Alex has fresher tyres to try and chase him down in the upcoming laps. At the end of lap 10 we do set a decent lap, but not quite improving on our personal best, so that will stay as a 1:36.1 for now. And at the end of lap 11 it's just still trying to set consistent lap times and manage the 5-second gap to Bottas that we have. He is in a quicker car than us, and he is slowly closing in the gap, which we did expect, but we didn't want it to be too much. He also will have the soft tyres in his final stint, and it looks like he's going to be able to pressurise us in that final stint. Jack Aitken's also in P5, so he's going to look to close up to Albon and Ricciardo and hopefully challenge them for the final podium positions. And that would be a great way to give a good send-off to the team if he could get a podium. But Lewis Hamilton is now out of the session, and he's just had an engine failure. As you can see here, he's just parked up on the right there, and we head through final couple of corners of lap 16, going again slightly wide, which I seem to just do every lap, but the gap is now 3.8 seconds to Bottas, and it's 3.4 at the end of lap 17, and we are going to come into the pits, and we need this to be a good stint if we are to keep the gap to Bottas, because he will, when he boxes in about 3 laps time, have much fresher tyres than us. We should be coming out about where Jack Aitken is, because he was about 20 seconds behind us. And again, we have quite a slow stop. This time it's 3.1 seconds, which is a bit of a shame. We'd have liked them closer to 2, both of the pit stops. Ricciardo also joined us in the pits, and there is Esteban Ocon just behind us, but we are just behind Jack Aitken, as we originally thought. And we head through the hairpin, and we need to try and line up and move on Jack Aitken without harming his chances of overtaking the drivers ahead of him. So we head through the chicane here. We've got a better run than he does, and as we go through, we've been informed that Bottas has now taken the lead from us, which is obviously true. But we're going to go to the outside of Jack Aitken, and we are going to take the position into the chicane. And now we just need to close in on the gap of Bottas before he pits, which was about 15.5 seconds. And at the end of lap 18, it's already 14.5, as Jack Aitken does box at the end of this lap. And at the end of lap 19, it's now 12.5, so we have pulled 3 seconds from Bottas in these laps, which is very good. So we're going to cross the line and set a new fastest lap of the race. And we are flying on these new tyres. Bottas is finally into the pits, and he probably realised that we were massively pulling time from him, so he's come onto the soft tyres. We set another fastest lap, and when Bottas did before have a 3-second gap to try and close in, he now has a 9-second gap to close in these final 7 laps, and he has to be gaining over a second a lap to try and overtake us. He's going at a decent pace, and he is definitely closing us in. I'm not sure if he has quite enough to gain a second a lap, and I think we will just about hold on to this. As we head through to lap 23, he gained 1.2 seconds on the last lap, and that is not really a concern because we can afford that, to lose that amount of time. And again, he gains about a second on lap 24, and we just need to slowly keep him at bay before he catches up to us. Jack Aitken's also catching up to Alex Albon, as we're only 5.5 seconds or so ahead of Valtteri Bottas as we head through the final corner of lap 25. On lap 26, we lose another second to Bottas, and Jack Aitken is now within DRS range of Alex Albon, so he'll have 2 laps to get past him for P4, and the gap's now 3.4 seconds to Bottas, so we head on to the final lap, so he probably won't be able to catch us up in that time. But now we're on board for the rest of the final lap of the championship, as Jack Aitken is going to try and overtake Alex Albon here, and we're going to head through this chicane, and he's got the DRS and he's finally got past Alex Albon, so he will claim P4 there. We're only 2.5 seconds ahead of Valtteri Bottas, and he gets a better exit. And well, this is the final run to the line for the final race of the season. Going very wide and making a mistake there, losing quite a bit of time to Bottas, and he's going to get the gap down to almost 1.5 seconds as we head through the final couple of corners. But that doesn't matter because we're going to cross the line and we're going to win the final race in Abu Dhabi.
That's it. What a season. Great work this year. Really great work. It's been hard at times, but we've come through.
So Carlos Sainz will drive for the day, and we've won the race.
Celebrations begin, and well earned they are indeed. It may have looked simple at times, but as any racing driver will tell you, competing at this level, at the very top, is anything but simple. There's no catching them now then. We have a new World Drivers' Champion.
So
It's been a roller
now we have the podium.
They can go into the winter with their heads held high. The faces on our top three look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
So this is us on the podium. Renault also claim another podium in the form of Daniel Ricciardo. I think that's their third this year, may even be more. But they've also had a very strong season along with us and Mercedes, with probably Red Bull and Ferrari a bit gutted with what they've done.
Discuss, Ants. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
It's got to be Valtteri Bottas, a commanding performance that I think had the audience's eyes glued to him for the majority of the race.
It's another clear win for Mercedes as they managed to secure the Constructors' title. An incredible performance for the whole team. Well, Ants, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So they thought that Bottas should have won driver of the day. I'm not really sure why. He couldn't make up the gap on us, and albeit he scored the second most points, there were definitely some other drives like Ocon, in my opinion, who gained 7 positions to finish P6. He had a great race. Jack Aitken had a great race to gain 3 positions, as did, I guess, Verstappen, Norris, Sainz and Gasly, who all came back through the field with penalties, only just missing out on points, all 4 of them. But Alex Albon will finish in P5, Esteban Ocon in P6, as I said, Leclerc in P7, Fiat P8, Perez P9 and Vettel will round out the points in P10. Then it comes Verstappen, the 2 McLarens and Gasly, and then comes Stroll, the 2 Haas cars. George Russell beat both Alfa Romeos. Nicolas Latifi was the last of the finishers, with Lewis Hamilton DNFing from the Grand Prix. So Bottas finishes with a 66 point gap in the championship. Hamilton then finishes a further 46 points ahead of us, and we're then a further 55 points ahead of Vettel, who just beats Leclerc by 21 points, who was a point ahead of Verstappen and overtook him in the final race of the season. Ricciardo finishes a great P7 in the championship for Renault, ahead of Alex Albon in P8. Sainz will be happy with P9 in the McLaren, with Perez, Ocon and Stroll and Norris coming in the next 4 positions. Jack Aitken brings P14 home in the championship, and Raikkonen is in P15, with Danny Kvyat overtaking Pierre Gasly for P16 in the championship, with the Haas cars and Williams cars yet to score that season. Mercedes dominated the Constructors' Championship from start to finish, 287 points ahead of Ferrari, who managed to beat Red Bull to 2nd in the championship. We were actually pretty close to Red Bull in the end, only 23 points off them, as we finished P4 in the championship, 100 points ahead of Renault with P5. Racing Point managed to beat McLaren by 8 points in the end, and Alfa Romeo held on by 1 point over AlphaTauri to claim P8, and Haas and Williams failed to score any points that season.
That was an exciting race from our perspective. Let's have yours. You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be...
Well, yeah, it was down to the teams that built the car. And yeah, I'm definitely happy with the performance. We won the race. We were pretty much in the lead the entire time.
Your rivals?
Well, all the parts of the car are pretty good. I'll praise the aerodynamics because I'll want to make upgrades on them in the future.
Well, that's everything.
And we're in our final time of this acclaim levels for this season. We finished the season with level 11 acclaim as a driver and level 13 as a team. And we gained a few of the bonuses with cash, about $1 million extra, and an extra 100k for managing to not damage any of the cars, and we end the season with 20 million to spend on a driver before we get our cash flow in for next season. So the next video in the series will be the pre-season video of next season. So until then, I'll end the episode here for the season finale, and we'll see you guys for season 2 of the My Team career mode.